Namaste, teachers. It is 3 minutes beyond 5, past 5, and therefore I think it is only appropriate for us to get started. Thank you all for joining us in this program that we're calling 30 Weeks to a Joyful Teacher, every Wednesday, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Last week, we had a huge response from all of you. There were more than 700-800 teachers from different parts of India. And the one thing that unites all of us is the deep desire to awaken the human potential in every child. You have co-owned this vision of Chrysalis, and we are deeply grateful to you for it. My name is Bala, and I'm part of the Learning Transformation team. And I will be your presenter today. So let's jump straight into today's session. Today we'll be talking about phonics. And the big question is, how can phonics instruction help students read better? Now, reading is a complex subject and it involves multiple skills. And today we are going to look at one portion of it that is usually called decoding, that has to do with understanding letters and sounds. And that's what is the subject matter of phonics. I must confess that I myself am not an expert in this area. I have tried to do a bit of learning, and preparing for this session has been a learning in itself for me. Now, at the end of this module, you will be able to explain, you will be clear what is the importance of the relationship between letter and sound. Now, this itself is very unique to English. The relationship between letter and sound might sound very new, and we'll come to that in a bit. You will also be able to say the different sounds, at least some of them. And we'll also look at some ways in which we can help students to decode the words. This is what we'll be looking at as the goals for today's session. Now,
so if this word is wine,
there's a fun video.
So if this word is wine, this word would be maga.
It'd be magazine.
Magazine. You don't see how that's all right. You know, I'll give you another one, okay? All right. So if this is magazine, this word would be
Porcupine.
porcupine. You don't. You're just not getting it. It's okay. It's okay. I'll do another one for you. All right. So you know this word?
River.
River. Yes. Okay. Good. So you are getting the hang of it. So if that's river, then this right here would be
Diver.
no. It's diver. You don't.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. Let me give you one more. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So first word is thread.
Thread, yep.
Which means this word right here would be.
Red.
Well, it depends. So this word is
Hour.
which means this word is
Sour.
which means this word is
Tower.
tour. You don't see how. It's because it's like not the same. Like that's why.
Okay. Yep.
Here, how about this one? If we take this R and we make it a P, what's this word now?
It'd be Soup.
As in chicken noodle soup? No, it's soup. You don't see how. It's because the P makes the OU oop. That's why. So if this word is wine, this word would be.
So as you can see from the video, and as two very famous actors said, English is a very funny language, and the rules are quite arbitrary. And that brings us actually to the need itself, right? Why there must be this question, and sometimes I've been asked about this. We've all learned English. Why are you talking about this phonics? So the idea of writing something, any language, right, is that we code the language. Now, languages didn't start off with scripts. Languages started off with people communicating with each other. People were making sounds, and over time, these sounds got refined into languages. And much later, scripts were invented. So the scripts, what they do is they code the sounds produced in languages. That's the job of the script. Now, most Indian languages are phonetic languages. What does this mean? It means that whatever we write and we say, there is a one-to-one correspondence. Like, let's say Hindi or Tamil, if we write ka, right, the sound would also be ka, katha, kaka, and so on and so forth. English, on the other hand, is not strictly a phonetic language. In fact, it is, I would probably think that a majority of the words are not phonetically spelled, right? And some of the rules may seem very arbitrary, right? Like if W-I-N-E is wine, M-A-G-A-Z-I-N-E, what you saw is not magazine, but it's magazine, right? So the rules seem very arbitrary, and it might even seem funny to us as adults. Now, for children, this can get very confusing. We have 26 letters, but there are more than 40 unique sounds. And even this number, right? If you go out there and look at all the resources that are available on the internet, you will find some places saying 42 sounds, some saying 44 sounds, some saying 48 sounds. But the fact is that there are more sounds than there are letters. And that's why English is not strictly a phonetic language, because what we write and what we say may not be exactly the same. So that's what is the need for phonics. We need to establish a relationship between what is a letter and what is the sound. And that is where phonics comes in. So this is something that we have to remember, because many times our parents might also ask us, why are you doing phonics? This is the response, right? That the letter may have more than one sound, and it is important to learn the letter as well as the sound and how these two are related. So what exactly is phonics? Any good phonics program, a program that is based on phonics instruction, should be comprehensive. At Chrysalis, we have a beautiful comprehensive phonics curriculum. What are its characteristics? Usually, phonics instruction means that there should be a clear letter-sound relationship. Each letter must be introduced, and the sound of the letter, the corresponding sound of the letter must be introduced, and the learner must be taught that this is the letter and this is the sound. That is why we say, you know, C says k as in cat, and so on and so forth, right? Blending and segmenting, right? So blending means putting sounds together. So when more than one sound comes together, so we say k, at, cat. So that's, you blend these sounds. Now blending can also mean consonants coming together, vowels coming together, and segmenting means putting them apart. Using all this, we decode, right? So when whatever is written, we try and decode what exactly is written there. And as we do this, we also establish patterns and rules. So that's where all your similar sounding words come in, and how do you say these sounds, and so on and so forth. And finally, of course, practice and assessment. So these five, right? Letter sound relationship, blending, segmenting, decoding, establishing patterns, and finally, having enough space for practice and assessment. Phonics instruction usually means that it should comprise of all of these things. Why? What is the benefits? Why are we even doing phonics? By now, you must have already realized this. Many of you are already teaching phonics. You must be experiencing the benefits. It first of all tells children, students, learners, anybody, not just students. It may be even useful for us as adults. What is the relationship between the spoken sound and the written character? And then it offers a structured approach to how to decode. By decode, what we mean, and earlier I had said that reading involves multiple things and one part of it is decoding. Decoding simply refers to just being able to say the word as it is. So for example, if we say, if you look at the word benefit here, right, then just being able to read it and say benefit is decoding. Now, I may not understand what it means, right? That is comprehension. Phonics is simply about decoding it, just getting these sounds together and trying to decode the word. And like I had said, it is an important part of reading, and therefore it promotes overall literacy development through the building of decoding skills. So that's why we think phonics instruction is important. Now, we're going to go through some of the sounds. Before we go through some of the sounds, couple of disclaimers. There are standard notations. If there are English experts here, you will know that in the English language, apart from the letters, there are standard notations to denote sounds, and this is part of something that is called phonetics. We have not used that just to make it easier. So we might have used colloquial representations, and I'll show you some of those. Also, this can get a little confusing, at least towards the end. So bear that in mind. Also, I want to place here as a context, a lot of what we are speaking in this session is for you as a teacher. You may see this, some of you may feel overwhelmed, some of you may be equally comfortable as well. It is important to remember that not everything that we're going to talk about here is something that you're going to translate to your think room, right? So we'll not actually be going into the lesson plans, etc. Keep this in mind, because later on we will be talking about how exactly are we going to implement, what are some best practices to implement phonics instruction. So this part of the session is primarily for you, so that you have an idea that there are so many different sounds in the English language. Now, let's start with the simplest of the lot, right? Consonants, and consonants that produce only one sound, right? So the letter B, B, bat, bed, right? Simple, no problem. The letter D, D, dog, dip. Again, simple. The letter F, fun, fig. The letter H, how, him. J, j, jam, joker. K, k, kick, kite. Each of these are just examples so that you get the sound. We're still on, remember, consonants that have only one sound. L, l, lip, lid. Man, man, mop. Notice how I'm sort of exaggerating the way I'm holding my lips and my tongue and so on and so forth. This might be a good thing to do, in my opinion, with your students, so that they are able to imitate you and learn. N, again, one sound. N, nest, neck. P, p, pan, pot. R, rust, rag. T, tip, tub. V, van, wine. W, water, wool. Z, zip, zing. So far is the simplest part of the phonics instruction, right? The consonants with just one sound. Again, I'm reminding you again, this is for your understanding. Not all of this will get translated to your classes, and all of this need not get translated to your think rooms. Now let's look at some consonants with multiple sounds, and it'll be fun when you recall the earlier video, right? Porcupine and so on. C, right? Now C has two sounds. Circle, cake. Notice how cake, the word cake, has C and K, but both of them have the same sound, which is K. So C has two sounds. The letter G, goat, goat. Ginger. Now, G in ginger makes the same sound as J in joker. S, sing. Is. Now, S is supposed to have two sounds. Now, this can get tricky for a lot of us because we are not native speakers of English. The second S is supposed to sound a little more aspirated. It is supposed to sound closer to Z. So is. Sing and is. Q. Q is another interesting letter, right? The ones immediate words that come to our mind, words like queen, fairly simple, right? The sound here is more like KW, right? Kwa, kwa. Now the second sound, can you guess what the second sound of Q is? Anyone? You could put it on the chat. Right. So the second sound of Q is more like K, talk, the word talk, right? So notice queen, talk. Again, two sounds. The letter X again has two sounds. Six, X, X. So that's more like a K and an S coming together. Xenon. Now this is more like a Z, xenon. So X again has two sounds. The letter Y, yellow, yellow. Happy, happy. Notice how when it comes in happy, it sounds more like E. So those are the consonants with more than one sound. Now we'll go to the vowel sounds. There is the short A, cat, sad. There is a long A, make, able. Now this is more like a, make, able. Two different sounds, but the same letter A. Cat, sad is the short sound. Make, able is the long sound. E, the short E. Pet, send, is the sound. Pet. The long E, evil, Egypt. Again, notice pet, send, short E, evil, Egypt, long E. The short I, pit, fig, the long I, mind, wild, pit, fig, mind, wild, long and short I. The short O, hop, lot, up. The long O, gold, post, up, hop, lot, O, gold, post. The short U sound, something like up, cup, under. The long U sound, more like U, music, cute. So it's more like a Y-O-O, music, cute. Whereas the short sound is just up, cup, under. Notice for each of these, the letter is the same, but there are two sounds. So you can keep counting 26 letters, but there's the number of sounds is going on increasing. And then there is diphthongs. There are several diphthongs. Diphthong simply means two sounds coming together, like oil, poison, ow, like brown, now, right? There are more diphthongs. I've not listed all of them because the purpose of today's session is not like to give you a comprehensive idea of all the sounds. So there are indeed actually more diphthongs, but diphthong literally means dye, two sounds coming together like oil, brown, and so on and so forth. And then there are R-controlled vowels apparently. So where if a vowel is followed by an R, then it gets controlled. The R is supposed to dominate. It gets controlled by the R. Like AR, for example, is dark, cart. So it's like a R, right? So this is how the Englishmen or English women, English people are supposed to pronounce these. Now, don't sweat much. It can get a little overwhelming at this point. It is for me. It still is. As I was going through all these sounds, I was actually literally quite overwhelmed, and that's fine. To just give you a glance of it, we saw short vowel sounds, long vowel sounds, diphthongs, R-controlled vowels. In the vowel sounds, in the consonant sounds, we saw consonants with one sound like B, C, F, and so on. Sorry, C comes in the consonants with more than one sound. Apologies. C has actually one sound like circle and one sound like cake, right? So indeed, there are 40 plus sounds in the English language. Now, as I had said earlier, the idea is not to have this kind of a theoretical exposition for our students. Obviously not, right? They don't need all of this. We have a very well-structured curriculum for them, and we should focus on that. This session, the idea of introducing you to these sounds was, of course, to just introduce you to them, and so that you are aware, in case some of you are not, that there are indeed very many different sounds in the English language, and especially the fact that some letters have more than one sounds, both vowels and consonants, and when letters come together, then the sounds could be different. So that is the sounds sort of at a glance for you. Now, this session is going to get over here. You will probably have a video. In case you're feeling like, hey, where can I go back to the sounds? Don't worry. You probably already know this, but we have the Chrysalis platform for you, and we have a beautiful phonics resource there. This is meant for you primarily, for the teacher, but you could also choose to play it in your class in case you find it useful. I will just show it to you for a few seconds. As luck would have it, I had it even open, but for some reason the video is not coming on. Give me a moment. I'll try to bring it on for you.
Bala, while waiting for that video to get ready, I've just got a point to add here.
Yes, please. Let me quickly introduce you to Sumati. Sumati is our early learning expert. She's been a school leader with a very well-known school in Chennai, and then she's also been working on various projects and has been with us for several years now. And welcome, Sumati, and thank you for joining us. Go ahead, Sumati. You had something to share?
Yeah. Thank you, Balu, for the intro. And hi, everyone. As Balu mentioned, we are not native speakers. I think most of us here are not native speakers of the language. So when we pronounce individual words, we don't actually get the sounds out right. So when we say pot and post, for us, the O sound is almost similar. And we are wondering, why is one a short sound and the other one is a long sound? It goes like this. It's pot and post. If you listen to the British, right, the English, the way English is supposed to be spoken according to them, the sound comes out with a little H. Post. Gold. It's not gold. We say gold, but it's not gold. Same with make. We say make, it's not make, it's make. Take. There's a slight I sound. It's not the same as mat. Mat, make, ache. So when you look at phonetics, there's actually an EI when you write the word phonetically. Spelling is M-A-K-E, but A itself is A. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you, Sumati. Thank you. This is the resource available for you. It is available on your platform.
Let's learn the sounds of the alphabet. A. A. A for apple. A. Apple. B. B. B.
I won't play the entire video, but we just wanted to let you know. Most of you probably already do know this, but in case you don't, do log on to our portal, and you will be able to access this this resource. Now, moving forward, this is another question that comes up quite often, right? All right, all this is fine. Letters have sounds, blah, blah, blah. But so why don't you teach, A, B, C, D in that order? Why are you now bringing up a new order? See, we must remember that letters by themselves are meaningless. Letters and sounds are meaningless. We need to get students to decode. We need to get them to start recognizing words and have the ability to read words and sentences. That's our purpose. That's our goal. Now, in order to do this, now if we started teaching A, B, C, and D, now if you try to put these 4 letters together, what words can you make, right? Bad, probably, cad, that's about it, right? Not much more. Which is why there is a sequence, and this sequence allows us to group letters, combine them, create words, and also bring similar sounds together, and so on and so forth, right? So there is a logic behind the sequencing. So in case your parents ask you, why don't you do, in fact, why don't you do ABCD is actually what would I say, a misnomer, if that's the right word, because when we start teaching, we first teach them the alphabet as it is. If you look at our learning experiences, the very first learning experiences would be to sing that song ABCD and so on and so forth, and get children to be familiar with the entire English alphabet from A to Z. It's only when we introduce the sounds that we do not go by the same sequence, and that is because we want to start combining the sounds, we want to introduce similar sounds, and so on and so forth. So, and now another thing to remember is that various kinds of sequencing is possible. If you would go and look at, say, XYZ phonics program, some other kind of phonics program, there would be a different sequence. It's not necessary to have one unique sequence when it comes to phonics. We have designed one particular sequence. We had our own logic. We have laid it out for you in the form of the curriculum, right? So among the many sequences possible, we have chosen one. All right, all this is fine, right? Like we said earlier, Sumati was saying as well that, since we are not native speakers, some of these sounds may not even be familiar to us. So what should we do now, right? The important thing for us is to remember a few points, right? Number one, here are some do's and don'ts, right? Please study the resources, practice the sounds yourself. The resources that I just pointed out to you, one is available online. We will also be adding more resources as days go by. Plus, you also have very beautifully, comprehensively written lesson plans. Sumati and her team have really put in a lot of effort to write these, to design this program and write these lesson plans in such beautiful detail, right? So please use and study these resources. That's the first request that we would make. Use different strategies, right? And some of you are already doing this, saying them aloud, word wall shuffle, and there are strategies mentioned in the facilitation handbook itself. Every learning experience has a different strategy. So use these strategies while you conduct the learning experiences. Use of different strategies will ensure that there is some variety in your think room, and the students continue to be engaged, and it'll be interesting for you as well. Imagine doing it the same way every day, right? You yourself would get bored. So try and use different kinds of strategies. Do not alter the sequence of the sounds. Now, if they've been introduced in a certain way, like we had described earlier, there is a logic, there is a sort of thought process behind putting these sounds in this sequence. It is best not to alter these sounds, and it is best to do the sounds and the learning experience in the same order that it is given in the facilitation handbook. Also, another caution, it is not a great idea to refer to multiple programs. If you've chosen Chrysalis and there is phonics in Chrysalis, then we strongly recommend that you simply follow the phonics sequence that is recommended within Chrysalis. As you're doing Chrysalis, if you start referring to, let's say, some other phonics program, it may get confusing for you as well as for the child, right? Because the sequence may not be the same. The way of doing it may not be the same. So these are some simple do's and don'ts. We strongly believe that if you simply went through and read the facilitation handbook, the phonics lesson plans there, as well as if you refer to the resources that are available online and just did them, then you should be able to do a fantastic job of teaching students phonics and decoding and reading using decoding. Finally, this part is interesting. If you look at literature that's available there, if you look at reading pedagogy, and there's a lot of research that's gone into reading pedagogy, both in first language pedagogy as well as second language. For us, obviously, it's a second language. There seems to be lots of different opinions, right? Now, we believe that is phonics alone sufficient? Probably not, right? Phonics can help to some extent. Like we had seen earlier, it can introduce us to sounds. It can help us put sounds together, take them apart, recognize patterns, and so on and so forth. This is a good start, no doubt about it. But is this alone sufficient? Is this enough? No, certainly not. At Chrysalis, we don't believe that, which is why we introduce whole word reading and sight word reading, right? So while we do this, the phonics program on one side, parallelly, we also train students to start recognizing words as a whole. This is especially important for words that are not necessarily, falling into patterns, and where words that can be more complex, right? There, we don't advise using phonics, but read them as sight words. And therefore, Chrysalis is like a combination of phonics as well as sight word reading. We have a beautiful set of stories for you, and you can use those stories to develop sight word reading as well. So imagine these two as almost the one question that sometimes, another question that teachers ask is if we can use phonics in the story readers. No, that's not a great idea. And the way I sort of say this is, just imagine this as two different subjects. Just like we have math and EVS, English consists of two parts, or almost two different subjects: phonics and your sight word reading or your whole word reading, what we call as language arts, stories, and so on and so forth. So, and we have a beautiful combination in Chrysalis. We've tried to bring a balance between both these approaches, so that students have a more holistic training on reading. So that's pretty much it from our side for today, as far as the phonics session is concerned. I will pause here and I will let Sumati add anything if she chooses to. And if you have any questions, then we can, have them in the Q&A panel. I already see a couple of them. We'll come to your questions now. Sumati, if there's anything you want to add, please go ahead.
No, Balu, I think you've covered it pretty well. And thanks for telling the participants that phonics is one way of supporting the children with reading, right? And it's very complementary to the story reader program, to the language arts program we have. Both put together should place the children on a fast track to reading. That's the whole idea here.
Uma Shankari asks, what about C and K? So K is straightforward. K as in ka, as in kite, right? Now C has the K sound in cake, and C also has the sound in circle. There's an interesting question from an anonymous attendee. Sumati, I'll let you take that. But if we should not use phonics in normal reading, then what is the use of it?
Help me understand the question. So am I supposed to interpret it as, if we're not going to use the phonic cues for reading, what is the point of learning phonics? Is that the question?
Correct. So we had said that when you're doing the story readers, do use it as whole word reading, right? Do not bring in phonics there. So that I believe the question refers to that, right? Normal reading here refers to when you're reading text.
Okay, so I often use this analogy here. Phonics is like one style of swimming. So when you get a chance to learn swimming through a coach, the coach teaches you a couple of styles. You have the frog style, freestyle, butterfly strokes, whatever. But when you see the way children actually learn swimming on their own, most of the time it's freestyle. Reading is just like swimming. Are you using multiple styles or are you using one particular style? Phonics is one particular way of reading, but if you're going to use phonics all the time, it will not give you the fluency that you expect. It can get overwhelming for the child. If you're going to stop at every word, put the sounds together, decode the words, and then move on, which is why we are recommending that you take up the whole word approach in the story reader. This is how reading works. When you look at a text, your brain kicks into action and it does so many things to help you read. One, the context. If I see sun, a glowing sun in the picture that's given on the page, and if I look at the word S-U-N, I'm going to say sun and not something else because the picture gives me a context cue. The word appears in a particular sentence. The sun is hot. That will give me, subconsciously, I will know, the brain will understand that it is the sun. 3, S-U-N. UN is a family word. I recognize the pattern. That's what Balu was saying. When you learn phonics, you recognize patterns as well. Some children are comfortable saying S-U-N, sun, right? That's also fine. So all these things come together to help you read. When we say don't take up phonics in the story reader, what we actually mean is that do not get the child to break up every single word there and try to figure it out using phonic cues. If the child is stuck with a particular word, you can ask the child to look at words there. I mean, the sounds in that word, not even the remaining words, just that word alone. Look at the sounds in there and use that cue to support the child. So it could be a word that begins with a B and ends with a D, right? B-I-R-D, bird. And if the child says something like, I don't know, blue, there's no L in the word, so it cannot be blue. So you tell the child, I see a B here, B, and the word ends with the D, B, B, and without giving away the word, let the child arrive at the word, and that's the way to support the child to the extent possible before you actually say that is bird. I hope this helps you. So use phonic cues wherever you need to, but don't expect the child or encourage the child to break up every word in this manner.
Thank you, Sumati. There are a couple of questions on we have viewers in the YouTube channel as well. We'll come to those questions. We'll take these. Please tell us about U sound. So we saw two U sounds, right? Like cup, sound, and then there is U, like music. The letter is U in both the cases. C-U-P, cup, music, right? So there's two sounds. Can you please send the phonic video, Niranjana ma'am? We will not be able to send it to you, but it is available for you on the online platform. Please contact your transformation partner in case you have not yet received your username and password for it. All Chrysalis teachers, these resources are available. Sumati, Lavanya wants to know phonics is helping students to read the text. What about writing the words? Could you please throw some light on this? How should we help students?
Initially, especially children who are exposed to phonics will tend to write the word the way it sounds, right? So if there is a silent E in the word, the child might not capture the E because the E doesn't come out as a sound. Classic example is make. The child might write M-E-K and say that's make, as in, can I make a sandwich, right? That's M-E-K. Please accept those spellings in the initial stages. If you start correcting them there and then, it will discourage them from venturing with their writing. So initial stages, let it go. When you actually look at the spelling, probably in class 1 or in class 2, then you can insist on correct spelling. Before you insist on the correct spelling, give them enough exposure to the words that's expected of them. So if a class 1 child is to expect a class 1 child to write M-A-K-E correctly, you would have to give the input first. That happens in our program. We gradually move from the word level to the phrase to the sentence. So that itself should give them the orientation. In case they get the spelling wrong, help them with the correct spelling, write it on the board. So if the child is supposed to write a particular sentence and you think the whole class is going to be at a loss with regard to the correct spelling, please write it on the board and tell the children, okay, children, you're going to use the word make in the sentence. Some of you might not be able to spell the word. Here is the spelling. That will encourage them to write more without feeling penalized.
Okay. Meghna Shukla wants to know what is the difference between C and K sound. Look, there are the K sound like camel and kite. K-I-T-E is kite. C-A-M-E-L is camel. Now, both these are the same sound, K, right? But C has another sound, which is S, which is circle. I hope that clarifies. Sumati, here's one for you. You had a sequence until last year, and this year you've changed it. Is there any particular reason for it? And this refers to think room sequence.
Right. The sequence we had initially and the sequence we have now, both were, I would say that the same rationale applies to both sequence. We were looking at the fastest way to give the children a sense of accomplishment that would come with reading. So the minute the child is able to read a few words, the confidence level goes up. That itself gives them enough motivation to want to read, to want to learn to read as well. The letters have been changed based on the recent research we have done. And it's only a different string of words. I think only one letter is different. Otherwise, the sequence is more or less the same. So how soon can we get children to read as many words as possible is the rationale that we have used here.
On YouTube, there are a couple of questions, and Prahalad has been kind enough to post them here for us. I have a doubt in G sound, as the rule may say that the sound should be J before an E or an I, example, gem, giant. But giggle, giddy, girl, they don't fall under this rule. Can you clarify? Sandhya ma'am, there is nothing to clarify. Like we said right at the beginning, these are just very arbitrary. Like English will say that this is the rule, and then it will give you not one, not two, but 5 exceptions for the rule as well. That's my understanding. And I think it just comes with familiarity. As children's vocabulary grows, they learn these words, right? For example, GIFT, I might go and say GIF in some context, and somebody will correct me that it's not GIF, it's GIF. And I just pick it up over time, right? So not all letters fall under, these words fall under rules. There will be exceptions, and you have rightly pointed out some exceptions. Thank you, Sandhya ma'am, for that question. Sandhya has another question. Second doubt is, double the consonants F, L, S, Z at the end of one syllable word that has just one vowel. Stiff, spell, pass. I'm sorry, I don't understand the question itself. Okay, Sumati, this may be a good one and it may help everyone. Suganti wants to know, if I ask for spelling, some children are saying the letters and some other children are saying the sounds. Which is the correct way to do it?
What is the context? So somebody else has got a question here in terms of dictating words. So spelling as in writing, when they write it out, if they're going to use the correct spelling as in M-A-K-E, make, some children write M-A-K-E and some children write M-E-K. Both are fine. It's just that the children who are writing M-E-K have not got these rules of spelling right because of the irregularity. The teacher just has to tell them the way you spell the word is M-A-K-E, and that's it. No need to explain anything else. It becomes a little too complicated. It depends on at which level we are talking about. If a class, one child writes M-E-K, support the child and give the right spelling to the child. If the child is going to write M-E-K in PP1 or PP2, it's okay to accept the sentence without penalizing the child. They will learn the spelling eventually because these are all very common words. They're exposed to the words so often that they will understand that it's M-A-K-E and not M-E-K. Which is why we recommend reading, ample reading on a daily basis, right? It's do not stop with the story readers given to you. Please make sure you read stories beyond the story reader program. You encourage parents to read. You encourage read alouds in class. You encourage a reading corner. You encourage independent reading. Nothing like reading, because reading helps with overall language development, whether it's speaking, learning the rules of the language as in grammar, learning vocabulary, or improving comprehension. Reading is the thing to do. Writing, spelling, everything happens when you read widely. Voracious readers are better thinkers and they're also better communicators.
Sajita says, if we teach the children the alphabet not in sequence, will they get any difficulty to pick it and write ABCD in sequence like we are teaching? How will they write the alphabet? Sajita ma'am, like we said, the very first lesson is about ensuring that children know the sequence of the English alphabet. They recite it and so on and so forth. It's only when we want to, teach them sounds and make patterns and make these sounds together and read words. That's when we, do not do it in the same sequence. So I don't see this as a big challenge. Some children in my class are from grade 1 directly. How do I teach them phonics? And there's a similar question in YouTube as well. How much phonics should we do in grade 1? I want to know how much phonics thinks Silky Sharma in grade. I want to know how much phonics are important in grade 1 and grade 2, because there are some words we can't read with the help of phonics. So how children will read these words? Sumati, I'll request your help here.
Okay, there are two questions in there. One, if you want a fast track to reading for children who joined the school system a little later and have no prior exposure to phonics, focus on the family words. Of course, you will cover the individual sounds. Then you will focus on the family words and the sight words. Sight words are words that cannot be broken up, right, into their sound segments. For example, she, is, am, yellow, right? We do not want you breaking this up. The child will look at the word and understand there is she, there is he, etc. If you can get the children to do this in the first 2 to 3 months, they should be able to join the rest of the class and pick up pace from then onwards. So this is for children who join the system a little later. And the other question about class 1 and 2, how to get them to read using phonics would be the same idea as well. How does phonics help class 1 and 2? If you can give them the foundation through the sound segments and the sight words, you can take it forward from there and also bring in whole word reading. There is great appropriate vocabulary. So for example, class 1 of friend, that there is a word that you'd want them to be able to read because they use it often. It's in their vocabulary. They might need it in writing and in conversations, etc. So can you give them reading assignments and support them with the reading with these grade appropriate vocabulary, not as individual words, but as text, maybe lines or simple passages, mini paragraphs, that would help. That also reminds me, somebody had a question, how do I give the children the right cue when I'm giving a dictation and SON son and SUN son is the same? To the extent possible, use words in context. It helps with overall language development. So if the word is sun, I would say, okay, the next word is sun, as in the sun is hot today. Or I would say the next word is son, right? The son asked his father, something along those lines, right? Give it a meaningful context.
We'll probably take 1 or 2 more. We're nearing 6. Sumati, here's one for you. When we talk about digraphs like sh and stump, do we need to use phonics for the complete word or just for the digraph? I think I don't understand the question completely, but ma'am, I think when you are attempting to read words, typically using phonics, I would focus on just that particular digraph here because that's what you're going to teach. Like, for example, when you're teaching the stump, right? The focus is on stump. So you just say stump. Now, whether you want to say right? I will leave that to you. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's because the focus is on the digraph. It's sufficient if we focus just on that. All right, there are lots more questions, teachers. Thank you actually for like joining us in such numbers. We are very grateful to you, and thank you also for all the questions. Some of your questions do sound to me quite technical, right? Like you've gone through rules and so on and so forth, which is great. My humble recommendation would be sometimes when we read all these rules, it can get overwhelming, and then we want to also apply it in our classes. Keep the facilitation handbook as your guiding path, your guideline, right? Just go with what's given there. That will sort of clear the clutter for you, because for every rule, there's going to be exceptions. Like Shazia ma'am has asked, why is C sounding different in different words? There is no answer to why, Shazia ma'am. It is just the way the language is, right? It is. Some people can say it's the beauty of the language. Some other people can say that it is, the fallacy of the language. But that's how it is, right? And these things can't be really rationalized. So since we're running out of time, we will. I believe we've answered. At least we've tried to combine as many questions as possible. There are a few which are repeated, say the C and K sound and so on and so forth, Z sound, W sound. I'll recommend you to go to the online video that I just showed you. It's on the online Chrysalis platform that you all have usernames and passwords for. You can play it again and again and refer to those sounds. And I'll let Sumati have the closing words and then we'll close the session.
Okay, thanks, Balu. So no, I just wanted an opportunity to answer this question. Rajeshwari has asked for some tips for teaching phonics, right? I like the question. I'm not sure they can give you all the tips right now, but all the tips are there in the lesson plans we have created for you. When we designed the learning experiences, we were looking at two things. How can we make teaching and learning both enjoyable and easy for the facilitator and for the students? So the lesson plans give you all the support that you need. One tip right away that I can share with you is do not get lost in the jargons of the phonics program. We have made it a point to stay away from jargons, technical terms to the extent possible. So beyond consonants, vowels, blends, simple terms, we have not used anything too complicated. If you come across those words in your readings, do not let it, overwhelm you. You don't need that kind of technical knowledge to facilitate lessons effectively. Basic understanding of the lesson plans, and of course, the intention behind a good delivery is all that matters.
Thank you, Sumati, Bala. We have a feedback link that Jay should be sharing right now on the chat. I request all the teachers to please fill the feedback. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good evening.
Teachers, the feedback link is coming up on the chat. I request to please ensure that you all fill the feedback.
Okay, thank you everyone for your participation and all the questions. So please share your feedback in that link provided. Those who have filled the feedback, please, you can leave now. We will wind up now. Thank you. See you in the next session. Bye.